the steward's burden, gifts, responsibility, and moral failure. To whom much is given, much will be required. Luke 12:48. In the course of human events, it becomes necessary to examine the errant notions that have pervaded the minds of men, corrupting the virtuous inclinations of liberty and duty with false doctrines. Among these misguided thoughts lies the concept of rent-seeking, as postulated by the followers of Karl Marx, who declare it a crime for one man to receive advantage, compensation, or reward without directly performing labor commensurate to that return. They brand all those who profit from land, assets, or positions of privilege as exploiters, parasites on the honest toil of the working class. Such a view is narrow and shackled to the mundane reality of human avarice, blind to a higher calling where transcendence reveals the true nature of responsibility. For in a world where gifts, be they the fruits of a man's talents, the wealth of his estate, or the blessings of position, are seen not as privileges to hoard, but as burdens to bear, we must question the very validity of Marxist dogma. The true measure of a man is not whether he seeks gain from his station, but whether he uses that station for the good of all, fulfilling the responsibility bestowed upon him by Providence. Each of us receives certain gifts, be they physical, intellectual, or material. A man may be born with strength of body, another with the sharpness of mind, yet others inherit land, wealth, or political influence. Marxism would have us believe that such gifts are inherently unjust, that those who possess them must be cast down, and that all men should be rendered equal in possessions and status. This is a futile and base understanding, for it overlooks the essential truth: the greater the gift, the greater the responsibility. The term rent-seeking, as coined by economists in Marx's lineage, condemns all who receive payment without direct labor as parasites: the landlord who collects rent, the investor who receives dividends, the holder of patents. All these are considered exploiters in the eyes of Marxist ideology. But how limited is this view? It assumes that labor is the only means by which value is created, ignoring the essential truth that labor itself depends upon resources, opportunity, and the coordination of talents. A man who tills the soil cannot do so without land. A factory worker cannot perform his task without machinery and infrastructure. It is the coordination of resources, the bringing together of labor and capital, that creates true value. The man who rents his land, if he improves it for the benefit of others, or the banker who lends his wealth to enable industry, does not commit a crime. He fulfills his duty by ensuring that the resources under his care are used productively. The injustice lies not in rent-seeking itself, but in the failure to exercise this stewardship responsibly. Imagine, then, a world where all men recognize that their gifts and privileges are not merely rights, but responsibilities. In such a world, the Marxist condemnation of rent-seeking falls flat. For whether a man's wealth comes from labor or from assets, whether he earns his bread through sweat or through investment, he is judged not by how he receives his wealth, but by how he uses it. Consider the skilled craftsman, endowed with the gift of craftsmanship. He is not judged simply because he has a talent others may lack. He is judged by how he applies that talent. Does he create objects of beauty, utility, or value for the community? Or does he exploit his skills for personal gain while ignoring the needs of his fellow men? Likewise, the landowner is not condemned for owning land. He is judged by whether he improves it, whether he sustains those who work upon it, and whether his rents are just and used for the benefit of the community. The financier who invests his wealth wisely, funding innovations that create jobs and new industries, is no rent seeker, but a vital contributor to the health of the economy. If he is sincere in his cause, and his wealth grows, it is because his investment has succeeded in bringing forth more value for society as a whole. In this light, we see that the Marxist obsession with the elimination of rent and privilege is misguided. It seeks to level all men by force, reducing the rich and the talented, not to responsible stewards, but to criminals in the eyes of the state. What Marxism fails to see is that it is not equality that secures justice, but the proper use of inequality. Gifts, when used responsibly, create mutual benefit. Inequality of wealth, skill, and privilege becomes a positive force when those with advantage use their gifts to elevate the community in their selfish pursuit of self-actualization through the execution of purpose. Thus, a transcendent economy recognizes the truth that all men are given different gifts and privileges, but all are equally responsible for how they use them. The failure to meet this responsibility, whether one is a laborer or a landowner, is the true injustice, not the mere existence of inequality. In conclusion, the Marxist critique of rent-seeking, while valid in economic terms, is shallow in the broader moral sense. The true futility of rent-seeking lies in the failure to recognize that all gifts come with responsibility. In a world where judgment is passed not only by one's peers but by history, by society, and by one's own conscience, the exploitation of advantage for personal gain is not only unjust, but tragically short-sighted.